In 2020, it seemed like the digital entertainment world had it all figured out. Piracy was supposed to be a thing of the past. No more sketchy downloads, no more pop-ups, no more endless searching for a decent stream. Streaming services like Netflix, Amazon Prime, Crunchyroll, Hulu, and Disney Plus emerged as the new heroes, offering everything we ever wanted at our fingertips. For a few bucks a month, we had the world of movies, TV shows, and original content at our disposal. It was easy, it was safe, and most importantly, it was convenient. But here's the catch. Fast forward to 2024, and the world of streaming is unraveling in ways no one expected. Piracy? It didn't just survive, it exploded. Piracy sites are more popular than ever, recorded 216.3 billion visits to piracy websites, surpassing even the biggest streaming platforms. You'd think that with all the shiny new services out there, piracy would have faded into oblivion, right? But here's the shocking truth. The very companies that were supposed to kill piracy, they're the ones who brought it back to life. The streaming giants made a fatal mistake, and piracy has been the beneficiary. And the question is, how did we get here? The early days of streaming were the golden age. Netflix started with a simple proposition. No ads, no hassle, just a low-cost subscription and all the content you could ever want. At first, it was revolutionary. One platform, one subscription, endless options. Sure, it was a little bare bones at first, but it quickly grew into something massive, offering not only movies and TV shows, but creating their own original content like Stranger Things, The Crown, Bridgerton, House of Cards, and Squid Game. Including other notable original series, they were setting a new standard. But then, something changed.
Netflix surging. That is a 5.5% increase right from the get-go. Why? Because they're going to raise prices 13 to 18%. That is the biggest increase since they launched the streaming service 12 years ago. Netflix zooming as we speak.
In an attempt to capitalize on their success, streaming services started to split the pie into smaller and smaller pieces. The idea of a singular streaming giant was dismantled as companies scrambled to create their own platforms. Disney pulled its content from Netflix. Many of its films gradually left Netflix to make way for Disney Plus, becoming the home for Disney content. Even Warner Media did the same with HBO Max. Amazon, Hulu, and others followed suit. This split in the streaming world didn't just offer more options, it offered more costs. What used to be a one-stop shop for all your content turned into a fragmented, overpriced nightmare. Suddenly, you weren't paying $8.99 a month for Netflix anymore. You were shelling out money for multiple services: Netflix, Disney Plus, HBO Max, Hulu, Peacock, Apple TV Plus, and on and on. At its peak, you'd be paying more than $100 per month just to access all the shows and movies you want to watch. But worse than the rising prices was the inconvenience of it all. Every streaming service now had its own exclusive content. Wanna watch The Office? Sorry, that's on Peacock now. How about Game of Thrones? Only available on HBO Max. Avengers: Infinity War? You'll need Disney Plus. The once convenient, streamlined service had now become a maze of apps, passwords, and subscription fees. And that's when the cracks started to show. In 2021, Netflix raised its prices again. It wasn't the first time and it wouldn't be the last, but this time it felt different. The company had been the trailblazer for digital streaming, the first to truly figure out the formula for success. But as the prices climbed and the content shrank, people began to feel the sting. Netflix once offered a plan at around $8.99 per month. Over time, with restructured subscription tiers, its ad-free plans now cost between roughly $18 and $25 per month, depending on quality and device limits. And then there was the issue of password sharing. In 2017, Netflix had famously tweeted, "Love is sharing a password," a sentiment that made Netflix feel more like a friendly neighborhood service than a faceless corporation. But as the years went on and Netflix's growth began to slow, the company realized that many users were sharing accounts, and those users weren't paying for their own subscriptions. In 2023, Netflix shifted its tone, cracking down on password sharing. They started charging an extra fee for anyone who wanted to share their account outside their household. Suddenly, what had once been a sign of love and connection became a betrayal of the service. College students couldn't access their family accounts from dorms. Families couldn't share their subscriptions across multiple homes. The backlash was swift and intense. It was a classic example of what happens when companies forget the simple rule: the customer is always right. It wasn't just about price hikes and account restrictions. Streaming services began to take things one step further in a bid to cut costs by erasing content. HBO Max became infamous for this. They had spent millions of dollars creating the acclaimed series Westworld, a flagship show that was emblematic of their brand. But after 4 seasons, they deleted it from their platform. Why? To avoid paying residuals to the cast and crew. HBO would rather erase a masterpiece than pay the people who helped create it. But that wasn't the end of it. In 2025, HBO Max removed 80 shows in a single day. Entire catalogs were gutted overnight, leaving subscribers scrambling to understand why the content they loved had simply vanished. Disney Plus followed suit, removing shows mid-season, cutting entire series, and explaining it away as a cost-saving measure. Now, imagine being a parent, trying to share your childhood memories with your kids by watching an old cartoon, only to find out that it's been deleted from Disney Plus, or a family trying to enjoy their favorite show together, only to see that it's been pulled from the platform with no warning. For streaming services, content deletion became a way to minimize losses and boost their balance sheets. But for consumers, it felt like a slap in the face. While the streaming companies were busy destroying their own content and restricting access, piracy quietly made a comeback. But this wasn't the piracy of old. Gone were the sketchy torrent sites that were riddled with malware. Today's piracy sites offer a seamless, user-friendly experience that rivals the best streaming platforms. Now, I'm not promoting the piracy, but it's undeniable that illegal streaming has surged. They offer high-quality streaming, mobile-friendly interfaces, and instant access to any content you could ever want. No ads, no login problems, no geographical restrictions. Especially in countries where legal streaming is fragmented or expensive, this makes piracy a tempting, though illegal. And the numbers speak for themselves. In 2024, piracy site visits skyrocketed to over 216 billion. That's more visits than all streaming services combined. People weren't just avoiding streaming services, they were finding better alternatives. At the heart of the problem lies a simple truth: streaming services had lost their convenience, the very reason why they became successful in the first place. Once upon a time, Netflix, Hulu, and others made it easy. You paid a fair price and you had access to everything you needed in one place. But as they raised prices, imposed restrictions, and removed content, they alienated their loyal customers, and those customers found a new home in piracy. It's not just about the price, it's about the experience. Piracy sites offer what streaming services used to: instant access, a seamless interface, and an unbeatable value proposition. Why pay for Netflix when you can get the same content for free without the hassle? What's more fascinating than piracy's rise is how it mirrors the mistakes of the past. Think about the music industry. Piracy almost wiped it out in the early 2000s, but then services like Spotify came along. Spotify made music accessible, affordable, and most importantly, easy. The difference between Spotify and piracy is that Spotify gives consumers value without taking advantage of them. But streaming companies like Netflix missed this lesson. Instead of making their platforms easy, affordable, and user-focused, they focused on maximizing profits, cutting costs, and locking down content. The result? A massive exodus from legal streaming to piracy. So, what does this all mean for the future of streaming? Streaming giants are fighting to stay relevant, but they're up against something they created themselves, an industry-wide mess of their own making. The truth is, the streaming services have been so focused on squeezing out every last dollar that they forgot what actually makes a service great: giving people what they want, when they want it, at a fair price. The rise of piracy isn't some rebellious act of defiance anymore. It's a logical response to a broken system. And the real tragedy here is that the companies who should have seen this coming, the ones who had a chance to get it right, are the ones driving people to pirate content more than ever. The streaming services' mistakes aren't just about poor pricing. It's about the erosion of trust, the frustration of navigating 1,000 subscription apps, and the overwhelming sense that, somehow, everything that was promised is now being pulled away. People didn't choose piracy. They were pushed into it by companies that lost touch with the very consumers who made them successful in the first place. And if these companies keep heading down the same path, the situation will only get worse. They've shown they're willing to sacrifice quality, convenience, and consumer trust for short-term profits. It's hard to imagine a way back from that. And if this video struck a chord, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more. Let's keep the conversation going. Catch you in the next one.